All right, welcome to the Krueger Show meets the Guy Haberman experience. Here we go. Hope everybody's having a good day. March 13th. Happy March 13th. We're brought to you on this side by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check out Pig and a Pickle. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. And they're open from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out of barbecue. So go in there, tell them the Krug sent you, say hi to Damon and Mary, and you know, tell them the Krug sent you. And of course, we're brought to you by MarinAutoglass.com as well as Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code Krug, and they will match you up to your first $100. And our last sponsor, Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles in Pacific Grove. Call Anthony Catania. He runs a great shop down there. 831-521-5264.
Not going to lie, Larry. I had barbecue the other day that was not Pig and a Pickle. And it was
dry.
No, it just wasn't great.
It wasn't great.
Lacked punch.
Did it?
Yeah. So,
well, you know, that's the thing. I mean, and it's always expensive. Barbecue is not cheap.
Barbecue's not cheap.
You know? But you got to get the right barbecue, and that's why you get a Corte Madera.
If you're going to go big, you might as well get satisfied.
That's right. To me, the perfect lunch is a brisket sandwich with their spicy barbecue sauce, with little potato salad on the side. I like their potato salad. It's very, very good. Homemade potato salad. If I can get a half cup or a cup of brisket chili, I'll go with that. And if not, I'll just get a nice little root beer. The blend is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So thanks to Pig and a Pickle. They're busy at Pig and a Pickle, but not as busy as the Niners have been in the last couple hours, last couple days. Malik Collins. You know, I was saying I kind of like this pickup. He's been on a few different teams. I really liked him. I really liked him in the draft. But you know, he's not the strongest run defender. He's more of a pass rusher.
The draft, just to be clear, was 8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, this was 8 years ago. But I mean, he was exceptionally strong at Nebraska. I mean, this guy, you could see the strength and he was impressive. And he played 4 years in Dallas, 1 year with the Raiders, and he's played 3 years now with the Texans, and now comes to the 49ers. And he's obviously a depth piece on the defensive line that is going to lose a number of different guys, and already has. Eric Armstead, by the way, they're saying maybe headed to Tennessee. That's the latest on Armstead. But, I mean, they're redoing their defensive line. They've added Leonard Floyd and Yatir Gross-Matos outside. They've added Jordan Elliott and now Malik Collins inside. They only have Javon Hargrave, Kalia Davis, and T.Y. McGill inside, along with Spencer Wagee. So, I mean, they're not as deep as they need to be, and they get a guy who can play in a rotation and give him a little pass rush at about 310 pounds. I like it. I mean, they had Givens, they had Kinlaw. They've now replaced Givens and Kinlaw with Elliott and Collins, and I think it's an upgrade.
I'm just looking. I just pulled up Malik Collins' contract over at. Have you seen compensation for this? I would imagine it wasn't much, 7th rounder or something.
No, I haven't seen what's going on.
I'll look here in a second too, but maybe the chat will tell us. But I'm just looking at his contract on Over the Cap. He has a pre-June 1 trade, which is what this is, dead cap number at $10 million. So the Texans are getting hit with a pretty hefty. He had a cap number for them of $13.4 million this year, Larry. So that means that the Texans take on $10 million of dead money and save $3.5 million, which, like you said, maybe they're using on Eric Armstead. Oh no, you didn't say that. You said Titans. Sorry. His base salary this year is $8 million. So that's what the Niners will pay him. Next year he has no guaranteed money on his contract next year. So
it's a 1 year stopgap kind of a situation.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Like coming into the week, the Niners were down. Well, not coming into the week, but coming into the last couple of days. If you just looked at what they needed, they were a net negative on the defensive line, right? Like even after the Leonard Floyd and the Yetur Gross-Matos and the Jordan Elliott signing, you kind of went through it, but they were minus just on the whole defensive front. They were minus Kinlaw, minus Cleveland Ferrell. Presumably, I think we could add that's 2. Presumably minus Randy Gregory, Kevin Givens, Sebastian Joseph Day, Chase Young, just going off of like what they were at the end of the year, right? So that's minus 6. They
And
were
Armstead.
Yeah, and then you had Armstead, that's minus 7. Good point. And then they were plus 3 on Floyd, Gross-Matos, Elliott. Now Collins plus 4. So they're still down 3, right? Did I miss anybody that they added there? No.
No. I mean, they re-signed some guys at the end of the year like Austin Bryant and Alex Barrett, but those guys are.
Yeah, I'm talking about like guys that dress on game day, right?
Yeah.
So they're still quote unquote down on their defensive line in terms of numbers, but do you think
they're gonna go to camp with about 15, and right now they got about 10. If you look at it, Floyd, Hargrave, Elliott, Bosa, Gross-Matos, Khalil Davis, T.Y. McGill, Drake Jackson, and now Collins.
Robert Beal?
And Beal. So that's 10. That's 10 right there. And I would say they're looking for 13 to 15 with, at least 2 or 3 guys coming out of the draft. I would say you're going to see at least 2, maybe 3 D linemen for the Niners in the draft, whether they be off the edge or interior guys. And maybe they still need a starter. I mean, I really, the move that I really love, the 2 moves I love the most. I mean, Kendricks is a 1-year stopgap. We'll get into it, but I love Jordan Elliott. I thought he was great at Missouri, and his highlight reel is crazy good. He's coming out of the wide 9. There's a lot to like there. Yeah, he's played in a rotation. He's played some pretty good football when he's played. So I think Jordan Elliott is a steal. I think that's a real steal. And then Leonard Floyd, I love the Leonard Floyd too, because I think there's no doubt in my mind that Leonard Floyd is a much more impactful edge rusher than injured Chase Young, Randy Gregory, anybody they got, really. Beal, Drake. I mean, Leonard Floyd. I think Leonard Floyd is maybe the best edge rusher the Niners have had opposite Nick Bosa. He's right there with D Ford when D Ford's healthy. I mean, Leonard Floyd flies off the edge. He gets 10 sacks a season. He's a really difficult guy to block. And in big downs, it seems like he comes up big because he's got top level athleticism and bend at 6'6". So to me, Floyd and Jordan Elliott make their defense look a little bit more imposing, though I still think defensive line is going to be a major, source of. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they went D line or D tackle, 31, right there in the first round.
You and I talked about it going into the last year. You predicted it was going to be an area of thinness for them, and it was. I posted a reaction on Instagram to the Floyd signing, just saying when you look back at the last 4 years, it's been 4 years really since the Niners had somebody. Well, I guess it's been 3 years since they've had somebody opposite Bosa that went and got sacks anywhere near the rate that Leonard Floyd does, and that was Arden Key when he had 6.5 sacks 3 years ago. The reason I mentioned that I put it on IG is because Arden Key commented and said, "You guys are going to love Leonard Floyd." He called him Flo. So Arden Key thinks it's a good addition for the 49ers, if that's worth anything to anybody. But, I mean.
He's right.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 10-sack guy for 4 straight years, right? And he doesn't miss games. The Niners have not had that kind of production. Or if they've had that production, it's been split between 2 guys. Elmenahu and Ebikam, right? Like, they combined, they got you 9.5, 10.5 sacks. But, I think what we spent so much time focused on the edge rusher opposite of Bosa this year, Larry. But really, they missed. They were historically, this defensive line's been deep with guys that can just stop the run, right, on the interior. And they also felt like they missed that as much as anything that they missed with just straight pass rush ability off the edge. And, if you can get a run stuffer next to Hargrave, I think you make Hargrave a little better. In theory, that's what it was supposed to be with him and Armstead, but Armstead wasn't healthy. By the way, John McClain, who covers the Texans, wrote, with the Malik Collins trade for a seventh.
That's a seventh, yeah.
A seventh. It means D'Amico wants to be reunited with Eric Armstead or Sheldon Rankins is returning. So,
well, we'll see. Tennessee, Rand Carthon may have something to say about that because it sounds like he wants to put big Armstead next to Simmons.
So Armstead's going to go next to Simmons or next to Daniil Hunter.
Yeah. I mean, either way. If I was Armstead, I think I'd probably rather go to the Texans. I just feel like the Texans might be that juggernaut in the AFC that's starting to build, especially after looking at their free agents. They got Aziz. You just said they got the Minnesota edge rusher. I mean, if they added Armstead, that would really help. Steve Gross says, hi, Larry. Hi, Guy. Good to see y'all. So with Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott being signed, does that nix the DJ Jones, or is that still a possibility? Mike Silver seemed to think that Denver was not going to cut DJ Jones, but Denver, you never know. I think I'll say this. I think the Niners would love to have DJ Jones back. And I don't have a source on that, just my sense of the people I've talked to around there, that they would love to have him back. It probably does, though, preclude DJ Jones from coming back just because they'll probably want, to go in more in the draft for younger, cheaper guys.
I wonder if the Niners would be trying to trade for him.
I mean, I would absolutely.
I just like Denver. Everyone thought he was about to get cut, and then Denver didn't cut him. Was it because they thought there was a market for him?
Or do they just, DJ's played average 16 games a year for the last 3 years. It's not like he's not a key component for them. He's enormously strong. He's a great locker room guy. And they'd probably just look at him and say, hey, wait a second. There's teams that are dying for this guy. Let's not get rid of him. Or maybe they're just, timing. It's just timing. Some of these teams are brutal as far as their timing, and they'll drive this thing to situate. They don't care if they drive you past the market and you can't get another gig, or you know what I mean?
Right.
We see that all the time. It seems like there was some speculation last night on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. I can't call it X. For some reason, I just can't call it X. It just seems wrong. But when last night there was some speculation that maybe today a big Niner move was going to happen. They did sign Eric Kendricks, but Eric Kendricks, who I'm sure, as a guy who's covered the Pac-12 a lot, all about the Kendricks brothers, Michael, who played at Cal, and his brother who played at UCLA. But Eric Kendricks is now a 49er. It looks like a 1-year stopgap addition to bring Kendricks to the Niners. 6 feet, 230 pounds. He, obviously knows Brandon Staley. What do you think of the addition of Kendricks, at least in the short term, to kind of, fill that spot that Greenlaw can't fill now because he's hurt?
Well, I think you always have to be, careful with guys who have a lot of tackles off bad teams because, like somebody has to get the tackles, right? And on that team, it was Derwin James and Eric Kendricks, and a linebacker and a safety makes sense. So I don't think they're in a position where they've got, they're 4 big dogs making over $33 million, Bosa, Mack, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. Just reading some of the Charger stuff, it didn't feel like they got exactly what they hoped out of him, even though he had a really good statistical year. But, I'm sounding like I don't like it. I think it's great. I mean, when you go look at, for whatever it's worth, PFF had him graded right around Dre Greenlaw overall. He's not nearly the coverage guy that Dre Greenlaw is, but he's a good tackler. Run support is what you need. You're not looking for, like, he's not, you're doing this in part because you don't know what Greenlaw's deal is going to be from a health perspective, but it allows you to not rush Greenlaw back. And even if, like, let's just say it's September 14th and Dre Greenlaw has been cleared to practice for 2 weeks, and now you think maybe he's about to come back. It just allows you not to overdo it with him, right? With Greenlaw, dude plays at 1,000 miles an hour, Larry. So he's just always going to be at risk of overdoing it. I would imagine this is going to be a pretty challenging rehab for Greenlaw. On one hand, it'll fit his personality because you got to go hard. On the other hand, rehabs are always doctors and physical therapists telling you we're going to take it a day at a time. We got to be patient. And, I don't know if that fits Dre Greenlaw's style. So, this allows the 49ers to err on the side of patience the way they did with Brock Purdy last year in camp, where they started giving Purdy, every third day off and that sort of thing to make sure his arm was fine. Would they have done that if they had no other quarterbacks? I don't know. But I think that alone allows you to just let Dre Greenlaw come back at to be conservative with him, which is what you want, because he still should have good football ahead of him once he gets back to 100%. And the other thing is, I think it just checks it. Like when you look at what their needs are, we'll talk about it. Defensive line, they need another corner, whether it's a nickel or a corner. They need a tight end. We don't talk about they need a tight end. They needed a linebacker. We can just check that box off. They got Kendricks. They got the young guys they have. They got Fred, Greenlaw. Maybe they're hopeful, and you can just move on to the next position now today. So I think it was a win all around. Not expensive, right? He wore the C on his chest, captain, played for the assistant head coach, Brandon Staley, last year. Maybe he wanted to come closer to where he grew up. So I think it's a very productive signing all around. Yeah, I saw Silver just tweeted they're not done. He just X'd.
Look at that, Silver. It's Shanahan and Lynch and Silver meeting right now to decide what the Niners are going to do.
What did you think of the Kendricks signing?
Well, I preferred Aziz. I wanted to see them go with Aziz, but I think if you go with Kendricks, now you've got a guy that you can plug and play right away and go with him. But I also really believe strongly in Jalen Graham. So I believe Jalen Graham is going to be heard from. Right now it's Warner and Kendricks, and then Greenlaw's hurt, and then you got Jalen Graham, D. Winters, and Curtis Robinson. I don't think Flanagan Fowles is coming back. I don't think Oren Burks is coming back. I think Curtis Robinson will be given that special teams, job,
which he's good at.
Yeah, and he's good at it. And to me, that's more of a lateral decision than anything. I think Curtis Robinson can do the job as well as those guys can. But the guy that's special is Jalen Graham. I mean, Jalen Graham is super special. You can see it. But he had some bad run fits in the preseason last year as he was learning the defense. But I think if they get on the practice field in July, and there is no Dre Greenlaw, and it's D. Winters, Eric Kendricks, Jalen Graham, and maybe some rookie, I like Jalen Graham's chances. But then there's a couple guys in this draft like Cedric Gray, and so there's 3 or 4 linebackers, Deloach from Florida State. There's a couple guys out there that are just really special that aren't even thought to be going very high. So if they wind up getting a Cedric Gray, then Cedric Gray is going to wind up starting opposite Fred Warner. But if they go day 3 for the linebacker, then it's an open competition. And I like Jalen Graham to beat out Kendricks. But,
Really?
I don't know if he actually will, because Kendricks, as the veteran, will probably be given the advantage.
Interesting. I mean, Graham stands out on a practice field the way that some of the Niners' historic blue chip guys do. He's really tall. I mean, you cannot miss him. And he, quote unquote, looks the part. I think part of I didn't mention this, but part of the benefit of Kendricks is this guy's not getting rushed either. Like if he's on the field, it's because he earned it, not because he has to be out there. So in some ways it's an investment in him, but of course you want Aziz probably making more than twice as much as Eric Kendricks this year. Right.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Aziz, I think got closer to 10, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought it was 11.
Yeah, might have been 11. I think you're right. It was north of 10. I was hoping they would get him for like 7.5 or 8, but because I think he made 5 last year. But obviously, he played well. I mean, I looked at Aziz football card or game log from this year, and you can see why Houston gave him big bucks because he's worth it. He's absolutely worth it. And yet there's some good off the ball stack linebackers in this draft, and the value to me is in finding those 3 or 4 guys that can really do it on day 3 of the draft. If there's going to be a monster move today, because there's been people speculating as much, is it Joey Bosa? Our mob nation says, is Joey Bosa a done deal now that we signed 2 defensive ends? I would say no. I mean, that done deal? No way. He's not a done deal. I mean,
done deal as in not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, done deal meaning that it's off the table. No, I don't think it's off the table. The Niners use their depth at the defensive line. They rotate guys through. There's no doubt the Chargers are in cap hell. I mean, the people speculating about a big deal today, I was thinking Joey Bosa, but I also was thinking maybe Khalil Mack, because Khalil Mack is coming off of a 17 sack season. I mean, he would be your grade A. I mean, could you imagine if they had a Khalil Mack with Leonard Floyd?
Everything we know about Jim Harbaugh, Khalil Mack is the last guy that Jim Harbaugh wants to not have on his team, right?
You would think.
I would think of my guess was of the 4 guys that are major cut candidates for the Chargers, all of them making over 30. The 2 that Harbaugh would want are Keenan Allen and Khalil Mack. And the 2 he would cut are Joey Bosa and Mike Williams, even though Mike Williams is younger. I just think Harbaugh would those guys fit Jim Harbaugh. Keenan Allen, Khalil Mack. Jim Harbaugh thinks he can go to the Super Bowl next year, right? And history tells us he steps into these talented rosters and almost does. So how are they cutting Khalil Mack, or at least not bringing back Khalil Mack? That seems insane. I think it'd be crazy. They are very aware about their standing in the LA market there. They have a star in Khalil Mack who actually lives up to stardom. They got the star Herbert. They added the star Harbaugh. I think from a business standpoint, it would also be, I would imagine the ownership, as much as they love to save money and they pay $1 in rent, would not want to get rid of Khalil Mack. I have a hard time seeing it. Just because I think
if these moves they've made so far are, and basically what have they done so far? Leonard Floyd, Yatir Gross-Matos from Carolina, big projectable defensive end, late bloomer type. Jordan Elliott. Yep. Jordan, but he's an end. Jordan Elliott from Cleveland. And now Malik Collins comes in from the Texans, Eric Kendricks. So they're almost all of it has been focused on the defensive front 7. What if there's a big move coming? What is it? Is it a trade for Surtain?
I mean,
Joey Bosa. How do you feel about Joey Bosa? His mom clearly wants it. She's pushing for it. I mean, you could have all these guys, really. I mean, you don't.
Yeah, I'm pro Joey Bosa just because I think for him to come, he's got to take a discounted rate. And it's hard to know exactly what would Joey's market be anyway. Coming off a year in which he had fewer tackles than, I said it earlier in my stream, than Sebastian Joseph Day, had more tackles on the Chargers this year than Joey Bosa did. He's not played back-to-back 16-game seasons in his career. But part of the attractiveness of Joey Bosa has to be that you think you're getting him at a discount over what the market rate would be, right? That's part of the, you don't want Joey Bosa for $30 million or $20 million or even $18 million. I don't think you want him for $16 million.
It's got to be a bargain deal for the Niners, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the assumption. It's like, okay, he's going to take a family discount. Well, how big? How big of a discount would he take? He's not at the level, unfortunately, at this point because of injuries that you just want him at any number. It's got to be a good number. Would you rather, are they better off? Let me ask you this. Would they be better off giving Joey Bosa $17 million or giving $17 million to Eric Armstead? Would they be better off giving 15 to Eric Armstead or 15 to Joey Bosa? I'm not particularly concerned. I love the idea of it, of having Nick and him together. I'm not making any decisions just on family reunions. Nick liked
No.
Chase Young. I was fine. He served his purpose, but I'm not bringing him back, right? If I'm the Niners.
I mean, I'm concerned. I mean, I was concerned about Chase Young's physicality because of the injuries. And then I realized, oh, you got to be concerned about the motor and the physicality. With Joey Bosa, I'm concerned about the injuries, but I'm not concerned about the motor. And if he's in there, he's going to be playing with his hair on fire. And I think playing opposite his brother would give him a brand new lease on life, a brand new challenge of, and I think Joey Bosa's got at least 1 or 2 good years left.
I'm pro Bosa. I'm
I
pro
like
Joey signing. I'm with you.
I'd rather have Bosa. I'd rather have Bosa than Armstead. You asked that. I'd rather have Bosa than Armstead because Armstead's plantar fasciitis is chronic. That's never. It's not like it's like, oh, next year he doesn't have it at all. No. He's gonna have it. He's like it's gonna be part of his medical history for the rest of his NFL career. That's just the way it is when you get to that size and that kind of pounding. And I'm since Willis, I'm a little bit more concerned about, the foot, ankle, plantar fasciitis, anything in the foot ankle area for big guys, always a concern. Always a concern.
Now, if the Chargers were to cut Khalil Mack, would you pay him market rate if you're the Niners? Could you do that? Because his market rate is going to be high-end market rate, right? Daniel Hunter just got 2 for $50, right?
I would. I mean, the guy had 17 sacks, right?
But yeah, I mean, but isn't part of the point of paying
an incredible player?
So I would love him too, but isn't the point of paying Nick Bosa that you don't have to spend top-tier money on another defensive end?
Yeah, but the way it works, it's like, why have a fancy Brinks, security system if you're going to leave your garage door open? I mean, that's kind of what it is. You're going to have this, you're spending tons on Hargrave and Nick Bosa, but then you're the quarterback can slip out the side door. You're almost defeating yourself there. What I like about the 2 tackles they got is both these guys are the kinds of guys that can absorb blocks and absorb blockers and keep, the offensive lineman from climbing to that second level and picking off Kendricks or Warner or Greenlaw or Graham or whoever it is. So I do like that, but I think that they've got to have a real rusher opposite Nick. And Floyd I'm fine with Floyd and doing it in the draft, but there's only a few guys that I like there's only a few really dangerous edge pieces in this draft. Jonah Ellis from Utah is one of them. I mean, you'd love to have him. He's an amazing player. But after that, I mean, Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, Latu from UCLA, Chop Robinson, those guys are all going to probably be gone. The Niners are working out Marshawn Nealon from Western Michigan. He's interesting for sure. But, I mean, what do you got? You got Nealon, Jonah Ellis, Muhammad Kamara from Colorado State I like a lot, Adisa Isaac, Austin Booker. And then there's some guys down the road, Cedric Johnson, Javon Solomon, Ayabi Okionoma, those guys. But, I mean, there's not the depth, I don't think, of the awesome edge rusher. Well, there are some interesting ones if you can pick through.
No, it feels like a group of second rounders.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so I mean that they've if you can get Khalil Mack and use those picks on offensive linemen or defensive tackles or maybe other positions. The Surtain one's interesting.
I like Jonah Ellis, by the way. Keep going, but just want to put my
what's not. Yeah, go ahead. What you watched?
No, I just wanted to.
The guy's got a ridiculous spin move, and I watched him spin into like about 3 different sacks last year, and he's not just he sets it up like a NFL defensive end. He's got the perfect spacing and footwork and timing, and mean, talk about a guy who knows how to rush the passer. My God, Jonah Ellis from Utah.
Great frame. I don't care so much about like legacy guys, but I do think there's something to just understanding what it takes to succeed in the league. Dad, brothers, anyway. Productive player on a good defense, right? Like, so
he stood out to you. What did you think of the UCLA tandem, Grayson Murphy, and I like his brother better, Gabe Murphy
and Latu?
Well, and Latu, but Latu, they say may go in the top 10. And Latu's got some medicals that have to be checked out because he's had some serious injuries.
He retired from football.
Yeah, I mean, but he's awesome.
Then came back and was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's 6'5", 260, moves, get off. I mean, Latu is
probably not going to be available.
I mean, here's the one thing. There is a chance he's available for the Niners. And the chance would be is if everybody looks at those medicals and says, no.
I think a medical drop puts him in the like late teens, early 20s. I don't think it puts him at 31.
Jesuit High School in Washington. He's from Sac. I didn't realize that. He's from Sac.
I didn't either. But Larry, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think without a medical history, he's older, but without a medical history, he's a top 11 pick. With a medical history, I still don't think he falls to 31, unless it's like people think he's got 3 years left in his body or something.
Yeah. No, but I mean, the mock I'm looking at has him going 18, and I think that's probably about where he'll go. If by chance he fell, he would be a no doubter, no brainer.
You started to talk about Patrick Surtain, and I interrupted you about.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if there's a big move out there for the Niners. I mean, if Mike Silver's saying they're not done, he's not referring to Malik Collins, right? I mean, come on,
right?
He's referring to something big, and the question is, what qualifies as a big signing? I mean, Joey Bosa would be a big signing. Khalil Mack would be a big signing. Surtain would be a big signing or a big trade. What do you think? If you're the 49ers, are they, because of their situation where they're kind of in their championship window, would you be willing to trade a second-round pick or something? I don't think that I want to trade my first-round pick, but I traded my second-round pick and some other things for Surtain. Or do you think he'd have to move the first?
The question is he worth a first? And I think the answer is probably yes. Now
he's got to get one in the chat.
What's
KP Chahal, who's a trusted source.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just joking. KP, you may be a trusted source, but I don't know that. He says,
like, just tell me where you got it. Like, you're not going to get credited by Dove Kleiman anyway. So tell me where you got it.
Yeah. He says, as per sources, Surtain to the Niners for Brandon Aiyuk and a second is in the works. Would you make that trade?
No. I would not make that trade. You've got Mooney Ward. Huh?
I love Surtain, but I need to know.
Aiyuk's going to lead your team in catches in 2 years when you re-sign him next year.
But, I mean, it is a stacked world of wide receivers. I mean, there's wide receivers everywhere you look.
I'm not saying you must keep Aiyuk under all circumstances, but I don't want to trade Aiyuk and a second for Surtain, who I also have to pay, where I have a corner. I've got 2 cornerbacks right now. Just get a nickel, get another corner, move on. Brandon Aiyuk is the most trusted target of your quarterback right now. Your quarterback throws with all this anticipation. Aiyuk runs on great routes. Of all your skill guys, I think he's the most likely guy to be on your team in 4 years between Kittle and McCaffrey and Debo. He's gonna be, if you re-sign him this year or next year. I just remembered I had a dream they re-signed him. But I've predicted, Larry, that he's going to play on his 5th-year option this year. I don't know if you and I have talked about that. But if you re-sign him, he's still in his prime, right? He's going to be like 26 years old, 27 years old on the re-sign. And he'll have, he'll be your number 1 receiver for like 3 years. Like, truly on paper, I think his numbers are still going up. now that he's got Brock Purdy with him. So you want me to take away Brock Purdy's favorite target and most likely long-term target?
I know, but I mean,
and a second for Surtain?
I know. But think about it this way.
What am I paying all these pass rushers? What am I doing all this for if I have to have 2 premium corners too?
All right, settle down over there. We're really getting fired up.
Are you going to let Mooney Ward walk and then Surtain become? That would make sense, right? Like eventually Mooney Ward leaves after this year.
This outpouring of energy is making me uncomfortable. No. Usually I'm the one who's screaming. What the hell? Let's walk it through though for a second.
Okay. Why would they trade for Aiyuk after they just traded Jerry Jeudy?
Maybe that's why they would trade for Aiyuk, because they just traded Jerry Jeudy.
You got to get Aiyuk with who's their quarterback?
Brett Rippon? No, I have no idea. Who is
Paxton Lynch? Well, they got, they have the guy that
they got Elway. No, Elway's not there anymore, right?
They had the old Raider guy last year.
Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, Stidham.
There you go. It's the Stidham era. They're probably going to go for a quarterback at some point, though. They just kissed off on Russell. Think of it this way, though. Debo seems to be Kyle's favorite player. Debo just changed his number to 1. Doesn't seem like the kind of move you do on the verge of being dumped. He's already signed up. I mean, that would look, you want to look really bad, change your number to number 1 and then get cap casualtied. And that's a bad
We're a
look.
year away from that.
I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson would take to the airwaves if that happened.
He's back to the Eagles.
He's back to the Eagles. 3 years, $33 million. He's a damn good player. But I mean, Kyle loves Debo. JJ was nearly the MVP of the Super Bowl. He's restricted. How much money are you going to spend on your wide receivers? You're a running team. And not only that, you could, according to the mocks I'm looking at, they may be staring at Xavier Legette or Brian Thomas at 31. I mean, I'm not, if you told me evaluate Aiyuk over the next 5 years over those two guys, I don't know. Xavier Legette, faster, bigger. Aiyuk's an amazing talent who's a tremendous player, but there's a lot of receivers, man. There's a lot of receivers. Brian Thomas is freaking awesome, man. I mean, if you watch LSU and you watch Brian Thomas, that guy's tremendous. So to sit there and say, well, you know what? They traded Aiyuk, but they drafted, they got Surtain and they drafted Brian Thomas. That to me sounds like probably a pretty smart decision, to be honest. I don't like the idea of moving Aiyuk. He's obviously really good. He's an all-pro player. But here's the problem. The report from Ian Rappaport said that Aiyuk's camp wanted to wait until after the free agent signing period had set itself to then negotiate his contract. Well, Justin Jefferson has to sign. And Aiyuk was all-pro. And Jefferson's going to make a ton of money. So now, instead of paying, maybe people were joking in the locker room with the media, hey, Aiyuk's going to make $26 million. Because there was speculation that they were going to pay him 20 or 23. And so then he put out 26. And then guys started saying, hey, yeah, there's a lot of speculation he's going to make $26 million. Well, now if the market resets and Justin Jefferson makes 33 or 36 or something like that, 35, then all of a sudden Aiyuk's like, I won't take him dollar under 30. Now you're spending almost $60 million on 3 wide receivers on a run dominant football team that likes to lean on their D. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not really sure that adds up. So I'd almost rather pay a big name corner who can shut it down and take a chance on the wide receivers that I could get to replace him. There's also some pretty decent wide receivers still left in the free agent market. Are there not?
Well, you looked that up. This is why I think Aiyuk gets paid next year when you can cut Debo if you wanted to post June 1 for $6 million if you decide to go that route. But that's where I think it makes sense to not pay Aiyuk this year. I know people say pay him now and then get his number lower than $14 million, which is the fifth-year option this year. But I think you delay it a year, you have less of these guys on your team in 2025, and then you are staggering his number even further back. Like if you plan on keeping Aiyuk, which you would be if you signed him right now, all of a sudden his big numbers are running into Bosa's big numbers, or his big number, let's say you re-sign Mooney, Ward runs into his big number. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Mooney. Ward at corner, but the idea that you're just going to go get Brian Thomas or Xavier Legette, it took 4 years to get Aiyuk to this place, to get him to a place where he's an all-pro receiver. What are you trying to do? You're trying to win a Super Bowl in 2024. That is what you're trying to win, a Super Bowl this year, right? So, what is the top priority in every move? It's win a championship this year.
But I mean, Kansas City did that. They said goodbye to Tyreek, got a bunch of compensation, got down the road, and won 2 rings since.
It's true. They did it after they'd won a ring, but that's true. But they also nailed picks out of that trade at a rate that is,
right. You got to hit.
It's the best case scenario.
You trade for picks, you got to hit on those picks.
And by the way, they won a championship, Larry, but they do need, they didn't fix their receiver problem. They just won a championship because they have Patrick Mahomes.
Right. But I mean, I'm just kind of wondering, how vital are these receivers to winning championships compared to a shutdown corner? A proven shutdown corner. I mean, as far as free agent wide receivers that are still out there, it's not an incredible group for sure, but there's a few guys out there. I mean, Hunter Renfrow, Michael Thomas, DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, Hollywood Brown, probably the best. Calvin Ridley, he's probably the best. Laviska Shenault, kind of a poor man's Debo. Chase Claypool, if you believe in Chase Claypool anymore.
No.
What has happened to Chase Claypool? My God, he looked awesome. At Notre Dame, he was great at the first year with Pittsburgh, and now it's like he's a dog with fleas.
Steelers have an excellent track record of nailing a pick and then having that guy do something just. From Antonio to Juju to Chase Claypool, it's like, oh my God, nail, and then it's just a disaster somehow.
Yeah. Let's hit some of these supers. I think we already put this one up, but we'll do it again. Our Mob Nation is Joey Bosa, a done deal. No, I think Joey Bosa is still viable. Dazza says hopefully all these D linemen mean they're going O-line in the draft with the early picks. What do you make on that? I mean, they brought back McKivitz. Is he going to be the starter at right tackle? And they said they like Feliciano. They've got Burford. Do they need a starter at guard or tackle?
Well, yeah, they don't have one at guard because they rotate at guard. And, if you've got a rookie tackle at 31, then it's fine that you're paying McKivitz $7 million to be like your swing tackle, right? Or maybe he ends up starting right away and the other guy develops in. So I don't think the deals that they've done or the things that they have on the offensive line stop them from drafting in the first round an offensive lineman, especially if there's one that they like there, right? Because you're not just thinking about, now I don't love the idea of drafting a first round lineman to redshirt him, but you are also drafting for the future post Trent Williams. So, if there's a guy that you like because you go, our expectation is that we're never going to be drafting higher than 28 anyway. If things go the way they're supposed to, this is a deep offensive lineman draft in the first round. So let's take a guy here and hopefully he can start right away. If not, then we know we've got a little insurance that we can rely on with McKivitz, or if it's a guard with Burford. So yeah, I definitely think offensive lineman's still on the table in the first round.
Do you have a favorite of him? Because it looks like Tyler Guyton.
That's the guy that everyone mocks, right? Just because it feels like he's. It
just seems like in the mock drafts, if you look at the So give you an idea. I look at Draft Tech, which is I like the way they kind of they'll link you a bio to every single guy, which is kind of cool too. But they've got Joe Alt going 4,
Yeah.
Fashanu from Penn State going 9, Fuaga going 10, Latham going 20. I love Latham. Mims going 23, Jordan Morgan 26, and the Niners pick 31. They've got Tyler Guyton off the board at 34, followed by Kingsley, Suma, Matea. I think I butchered that. Patrick Paul, Karan Amagashi from Yale. Those guys going.
Did you say Jordan Morgan? Sorry.
Jordan Morgan going 26. So they had
I've
Morgan
heard is actually more of a guard than a tackle, even though everyone's
got
him
shorter
as a tackle.
arms. He's really a great blocker. I mean, I'd like to have him, but as far as I'd rather have him as a guard. But I mean, I like Tyler Guyton. I just think that Guyton's dominating in the run game. Kingsley Sumatea is look great at the combine. I mean, he works out like a very natural mover. And if I don't know what he weighed at the combine, but I've seen his weight anywhere from 285 to 325. So that would have to be. They had him at 315.
No, I haven't. Let me check the combine.
Yeah, I'd love to know what he was at the combine, because I'll say this: at the combine, watching him work out, he looked like 280, 285. He looked small.
So I mean, the NFL.com this says 326.
Yeah, so that's a great sign. If he was working out at the combine at 326 pounds, that's a really good athlete at 326 pounds, because to me, he looked 285. So, yeah, Guyton, Sumatea, then there's Patrick Paul from Houston. The kid from Yale is an amazing athlete with really long arms, but he was hurt this year. I think he's coming off a quad. I don't think he worked out at the combine. There's Blake Fisher from Notre Dame. And then you get into that next tier. And to me, that's where I really like the tackles. I like that next tier. Javon Foster at Missouri. Christian Jones from Texas looked great in this one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl. Ladarius Henderson in the college football playoff looked like a young, Gene Upshar, Art Shell. I mean, this guy was firing off downfield. They were pulling him. He's 310 pounds. I think he started at ASU and transferred in. Ladarius Henderson looks very real to me. The Maryland kid, Gottlieb Ayadazi, is a tremendous athlete at 6'4", 300 pounds. And then I love Garrett Greenfield and Mason McCormick, the right side of that South Dakota State line, a lot. And Greenfield looked fantastic at the combine. So, and there's more guys beyond that. I mean, there's Walter Rouse, who played at Stanford, transferred to Oklahoma. There's a guy named Frank Crum, who played at Wyoming. I don't know if he did Wyoming this year. But Crum has got the blonde locks and, proposed to his girlfriend in the snow and everything. But he had a crazy workout number, and he looked great at the combine.
Yeah, he was a combine star.
Yeah, 6'8", 313 pounds. I mean, he was really, really good. So, there's some interesting guys there for sure. The Laumea, Sateo Laumea from Utah. Is a pretty good, interesting player. Roger Rosengarten from UW is a very interesting tackle as well. So I mean, it when people say it's a good tackle draft, they're not just talking about those top 7 or 8 guys. They're talking about like 15 or 20 guys. I mean, there's a lot of really good tackles in this draft. So that's why I would say you don't necessarily have to go offensive tackle in round 1. If you went with Javon Foster and Christian Jones out of Texas in the 3rd round, I think you'd have 2 pretty good prospects there. We got this one from Daza. It says, if we're going to make a big splash, I'd rather a cornerback than a defensive lineman. At this point, probably, yeah. I mean, especially if you could get a great corner. I think they wanted Jalen Johnson, but the Bears said, you know what, we're gonna keep him.
Well, and that's why you got to at least acknowledge Surtain, right? Like the Niners would have traded for Surtain or Jalen Johnson in October.
Yeah.
So that's why the Johnson thing felt very real, and probably was.
Well, here's the other thing about it. I mean, people think about different things when they're building a football team. I think if you're the 49ers, the one thing you have to think about is Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, because you got 2 guys there on one of your arch rivals that are really difficult to stop. I mean, really difficult to stop. Like you can't fake corner. So I also don't think the Niners really have the real belief that Luter and Womack and some of their young guys are going to fulfill potential.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Womack would have been out there. He was inactive huge portions of late in the year.
I think that's true. So you want Stephon Gilmore?
No, I don't want Stephon Gilmore because he's got bum wheels, and I don't think he can run anymore. And you still got to pay him on his rep. Yellow Spry says if Graham can play well in pass coverage, they could start him with Warner and have Kendricks play base downs. Highly dependent on Graham, though. Yeah, I think Graham's. I'll make the prediction right now. Some point next year, Graham's going to wind up with a boatload of tackles, and there's going to be people questioning why he didn't play last year. That's how good he is. Middleman Exotic Snacks is Jimmy G on the league minimum. Who says no? Me.
The Niners. No. Jimmy G. Everybody involved.
Everybody. Brock's agent, Brock's fiance. Everybody except for Juice and Kittle say no.
And the veteran dance team of the Warriors. Remember when they had the mature dance team all fawning over Jimmy G?
It's embarrassing, really. Who's your third quarterback? If Brandon Allen, Brock Purdy are the two of the three, who's the ideal third guy?
Rookie. Undrafted.
A rookie guy.
Undrafted.
Would you take a shot on like Joe Milton, who's just crazy athletic, or would you rather have like Michael Pratt from Tulane, who's probably could play right away?
Yeah, you and I have talked about this. I would not draft a guy. I would take an undrafted guy. Oh, we've got is this real Schefter here? Sorry. Adam Schefter, Niners and Kyle Juszczyk have reached an agreement on a restructured contract that'll free up $1.75 million. So Niners restructured Juice.
So they approached Armstead about a restructure. He said no. They cut him loose. They approached Juice about a restructure. He probably said yes. And now he's sticking around. Well, he's smart. He's smart. Now he's making money with his wife, and he's on an iconic team, and he's comfortable. Stay where you're comfortable. Don't go, right? I mean, do you?
Yeah,
do you
I don't know. I don't know how much less he got, what concessions he had to make, but I think it's best for everybody for Kyle Juszczyk to stick around. Personally, I like him, but I think he's a lot. I've had this conversation with a lot of people. I think he's a lot harder to replace than people think. People are like, oh,
you interviewed him late in the year too, didn't you?
I
thought I saw you interview.
I don't know. Oh yeah, at the Super Bowl briefly, but I've talked to him a lot when I go to the locker room and just chat. Why?
No, I was just saying. Oh, no, I was just saying that he's like, if you're in the room, you can see that he's one of the leaders, and whether he gets a lot of touches or not, he knows the game plan thoroughly each week. You can tell before, you know what I mean? He's a valuable component.
He made multiple huge catches down the stretch in the postseason. But to your point, I don't think it's an accident that his lockers between Brandon Aiyuk and Juwan Jennings lockers.
You think he's kind of the glue, a glue piece?
Yeah, I think I was interviewing Juwan Jennings this year, and Juice came up, and Juwan got all excited and dapped him up. And I remember interviewing Kyle several years ago, and he was adamant. Young Aiyuk. This was after Aiyuk's rookie year. Doghouse Aiyuk, allegedly, and it was clear that he was a big encourager of Brandon, and he was a big believer in Brandon Aiyuk. And he said at the time, like, our lockers are next to each other. We do some kind of like athletic rehab type stuff together. And I'm telling you, his quote I remember at the time was, "I'm telling you, he just needs somebody to learn from a little bit, like a veteran, somebody to show him the way, and he's gonna break out." And he was right, and I think that was part of his job. Now, you can't pay guys just to be leaders; like, they got to perform.
Right.
Kyle Juszczyk performs, and I know you and I have discussed a little bit before. people throw names at me over the last 3 weeks of like, well, could this guy be the next youth checker? I think when you really watch him, all the different things he does, from understanding the offense to blocking to lead blocking, like A, B gap lead blocking to pass catching. I think the cost of replacement, I just don't think you find that guy. So this is a
Very
win
difficult
for everybody.
Yeah, very difficult guy to replace. Very difficult guy to replace. 3 last quick ones here. James Foster, 3 D lineman acquisitions at all around 8 to 10 million per, plus Kendricks, plus Allen and others. How much cap space do we have? Aiyuk extension and juice pay cut coming. It's an elusive thing, but they can create a lot of room this year if they want. And as far as exactly what they have to the minute, I'd have to go look that up, and I don't have time to look that up right now. But they have more flexibility than most people think. Lanil says, what do you guys think of Malik Collins' trade to the Niners? I like the wrestling background, and I like this player's power coming out of Nebraska. Guy, do you have a thought on Malik Collins at all?
Yeah, I think he fits what they have historically had, but maybe had less of this year, which is run-stopping depth on the interior of their defensive line. It solidifies, I think, what we've talked about, the likelihood that Eric Armstead doesn't return. But, I mean, is he their – do you view him as their starter? I think he's their starter.
No.
Opposite. No? Who's going to start at the other tackle spot?
I would say Jordan Elliott
Jordan
probably
Elliott?
starts. Yeah, I like Jordan Elliott a lot. I think Jordan Elliott's got huge talent. I think Collins is more of a pass rusher, backup lineman. Goldhouse's list, lineman Kyle is drafted at the Niners. Yeah, it's not a lot. Nick Zakel.
Burford, Moore,
yeah,
Banks.
A few, but no stars yet. Daza says McKivitz, yeah, 5th round pick. Instead of getting an okay lineman in the 3rd round, we should trade up and get a stud right tackle that could potentially slide over to left tackle when Trent retires. Yeah, that's definitely a thought. I think that could be in their thinking. And the last one here is from Stacy Jones. Bosa or Mack, is Surtain realistic anymore? I don't know if Surtain's realistic, but I would love to see it. If I could choose Bosa or Mack, I would choose Mack.
Yeah. Even if Bosa's a deal and Mack is expensive, you would choose Mack because you need the production. You know, one thing I've been thinking about is like if the Niners want to trade up in the 1st round for a tackle or whatever, can they? Like, what would it cost them, right? And I think they're at 31 right now. How high can they reasonably get without torpedoing their own draft stock? This is an important draft for them from a depth standpoint as well. Like their 2nd round pick is a critical pick this year, right? It's critical every year, but it's a critical pick this year. So are you willing to trade your 2nd round pick to move from, 31 to 20? That feels right? Does that feel right? Or is that not enough to move from 31 to 20?
I mean, I would say if you could get to 20,
where are you going?
You would have a much better chance to pick whoever you wanted.
But do you think your 2nd round pick is enough to get you to 20?
No.
Okay, so
I would say you need a 2nd, a 3rd, and maybe a 5th, something like that.
Yeah, that's a very high price to pay when you only have 1 2nd and 1 3rd.
Yeah. You're going at 11, which is only 12 minutes from now, so I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go on at 11 on Damon's channel. Or I don't know if you're going at 11 or if you got a meeting at 11, but I know you had to jet. But
I appreciate you making a meeting. I got to go. I got a haircut coming up.
Do you? Look at that. Do you got the greatest hair of all time?
I don't. That's nice of you to say. I don't think that's true.
Wall to wall carpet. Things just. See, when I get hair, I always go for tight on the sides.
Yeah.
So I get the white walls going. I got the training camp haircut all year long. So it
lasts. I like that.
It lasts. Yeah. The last thing I want is like bushy over the ears.
Right.
But you look at me. See, I'm thinner on top. You can kind of see through to my scalp. Your scalp. You may not even have a scalp. I mean, who knows what's on
I hope
there.
not.
There could be
we never find out.
You could there could be a foot locker in there. I mean, you could have so there's a lot of thickness to the top of that.
I actually thin it, which is, a little, it gets too puffy if they don't thin it out.
Do you ever say that to the barber in the shop as he's got somebody else in there with really thin hair, and you're like, "Hey, could you use the thinning shears to thin it out? It's just really way too thick up there."
Well, I get my hair cut in a van, so there's nobody else in the shop there to hear what we're doing. Yeah,
nice. Do you want to give us the location of that said van, or is this?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't want any more customers.
No, really. Look at you.
Not me. He's too busy.
Hairdresser to the stars.
My guy Larry cuts like 4 days a week. Barber's a good business.
Look at Roberto here. Larry is a high class comb over. It's not a comb over. It's just mousse. I use a little mousse to direct it. Otherwise, it would be very messy. All right, good stuff, guy. We love streaming with you. Tell people what you got cooking. Anything that you want to promote coming up on the channel. Yeah, I know you and John have parted ways. John's doing his own thing, and I would imagine you're cool with that. And
yes, we have officially parted business ways. We're still friends.
Still friends.
Yeah, we haven't broken up a friendship, but the channel now says Guy Haberman on it, and the podcast the same, so you can check out the pod. And I've got a pretty good streak. It's not like Larry level production that I've put together on the channel, but it's I've only missed one weekday since the Super Bowl. That was last Friday. So get over to some people are watching this on my channel, but if you're on Larry's channel, come on over and hit that like button too, and subscribe. Appreciate that very much.
Jeb says Middlecoff has better hair.
I can't lie. Like I lived with John in his Propecia phase, and there's something about being able to just take a nap, get up, or do whatever, and it always wake up for a flight. You never have to mess with it. I'm not wishing for it, but there's just something to be. I could see how you would.
John he has a good shaped head, but you just don't know what size, what your head's
exactly
like.
Right. I would need like some AI generation to figure out ahead of time what I'm going to do. If it ever came to that. So
plus John's got kind of olive skin, so it's not as stark.
He tans better than me.
Yeah. See, if I was there and all of a sudden it's just the whiteness of white,
That's when you grow a beard.
Seriously, but that always looks like your head, something, your hair fell.
The Robert Saleh.
Yeah, it's all down here.
The Saleh.
Who I had in studio during the bowl game a couple years ago was the former head coach of the Bears, who's coaching the Illini. Lovey Smith. And Lovey, bald up top, massive gray beard down beneath.
Right.
And it looked good.
You and Nick have the same coloration.
Do I? Yeah, the salt and pepper.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Except you shave. We'll see if Nick shaves now that he's the DC.
Nick, now that you're the DC, do you wind up wanting to have, do you go more high and tight at the barber shop? Those kinds of probing.
Or maybe maybe he doesn't because he's got less time. I don't know.
Yeah, seriously, maybe. All right, man. Good stuff.
Okay.
Enjoy
Thanks,
the rest of your day. Thanks to everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.